Nancy Strauss is the creative director for Trulife, which is a Durban-based NPO, to talk more about this campaign. Good evening and welcome to you, Nancy. The campaign highlights that human trafficking is the fastest growing criminal industry in the world. It generates a staggering 258 trillion rand and upwards per year. What factors are making it possible for this industry to be so lucrative?
Thank you so much, Iman. I think one of the biggest problems that we have in South Africa is a lack of education about this issue. And so we're so grateful for the opportunity to launch this campaign in partnership with the National Freedom Network and Think Creative Africa. Gauteng is, as you've mentioned, has many hotspots, but I need to make it very clear there are hotspots in every single province. We've just begun in Gauteng and hope that this campaign will gain momentum throughout the country. My organization, Trulife, works primarily in schools to educate young people about the dangers of trafficking. And on a weekly basis, we are approached by young people that have received fake job offers through their social media. We have young girls being approached by supposed modeling agencies through their Instagram accounts. We've had stories of high school learners being forced into taxis at the taxi ranks, and so it goes on. And while we don't want to resort to any fear mongering, that's not the point of this campaign. The really what needs to be done is in the hashtag, the traffic you need to know. Knowledge is key. So if we can get the message out there and inform these communities, then they'll be better equipped to protect their young people and protect everyone.
Yeah, I think it's right when you say, Nancy, that we should not approach it from a position of fear and disempowerment, but of awareness and power. And so when you're talking to these young people, I mean, what are some of the things you tell them about how to be, aware? And as you say, adverts and job opportunities and so on are very alluring, especially in a context like ours where unemployment is high. But what are some of those fail-safe methods that people can use to make sure these are not, or these are legitimate job offers or opportunities?
Exactly. I think the first step is just helping young people recognize that unfortunately there are people out there that want to take advantage of them, and just to be cautious of anything that looks too good to be true. We also promote South Africa's National Human Trafficking Helpline. This is a toll-free number that anyone can call at any stage. I'm sure you will be sharing it, but it's 0800 222 777. It is a fantastic resource that you can phone, and they will actually vet job opportunities for you. So whether it's to report any suspicious behavior or even just to ask questions, we try to direct young people there. On top of that, we also equip them with the steps of what to look out for human trafficking. My organization, Trulife, are big on the slogan, brave choices equal a better future. We really believe young people have what they need within themselves to actually be heroes for each other. If they can look out for each other and start to kind of have a my brother's keeper mentality, then we can start to see them really start to protect each other and not just turn a blind eye when they do see something suspicious, when they see someone in need, or even when they overhear maybe a conversation between friends. Hopefully those red flags will be raised and help can be gained.
Yeah, and it's a pity that we have to actually resort to firefighting in a way to make sure that we don't get caught up in situations where we might not have any power. But I want to go back to these hotspots I talked about at the beginning of the program. Why are they popular sites for traffickers? In other words, I mean, what is it about? Either you talked about online recruitment. Yes, we got that one. But in terms of physical spaces, why are those spaces places of opportunity?
So how those places were identified as hotspots is we work very closely with the National Prosecuting Authority. And so really they've looked at the statistics over the past few years to see where have reported cases been identified. So where have people come forward of cases of human trafficking being either reported to the police or ultimately being prosecuted in the courts, and that's where the body of evidence has been found to be taken place. And so obviously we want to be evidence driven. We don't just want to go by, I think often Hollywood or, media can paint an image of human trafficking only happening in certain areas or only, happening in the worst of the worst. And as that list shows, it really is spread amongst a range of economic areas, a range of from built up city areas right through to the suburbs. But I think the key common denominator is perhaps areas where this type of behavior can get away with, where maybe there are abandoned houses that can be used, where maybe there is a lack of vigilance, and there is just an opportunity for people to take advantage of communities that are already at risk because of their situations. And so really it's now about taking that step to work with police, to work with community officials where there's already been identified crimes and tighten up on that security.
Well, let's just talk about that part. And this is the, the vigilance and the sort of integrated cooperation between organizations and campaigns like yourselves and law enforcement. How robust is that integration? And how energized would you say law enforcement is in responding to research such as the kind that you put out and responding to complaints?
We have a fantastic network of trained police on what's called the Human Trafficking Task Force. This is a government established team that each province is involved in. And those colleagues really work around the clock to not only prosecute, but also educate their police teams. I know that as with many areas in our country, there is issues with it trickling down. So we have heard reports of certain police stations not responding well to, when there is a report of human trafficking, it often gets mislabeled perhaps as kidnapping or vice versa. So there is definitely more education needed, I think. But I know that those that are on the ground really dealing with this, the task force that have been kind of mandated to deal with this issue, are really doing great work in that area. And so hopefully as they continue to train year after year, that will spread and trickle down into kind of the lower ranks of the police force.
Nancy, one of the most important weapons we have, I suppose, to use the word weapon, is just other people, a community. How does one recognize the signs of somebody that's being trafficked, and what is the best way to approach that situation?
So some of the key things we always tell our young people, but it can apply to any age to look out for, is obviously the first thing is anything that's too good to be true. I think we live in a world where there is no such thing as a free lunch, as much as we want to hope for that. But particularly offers where someone is trying to separate you from your safety network. If they want to take away your passport or ID for whatever reason, even if it's under the illusion of making a photocopy or giving you an opportunity or separating you from, isolating you into a different area that you're not familiar with, or saying that they'll pay for private transport, anything that's going to take you out of the public eye, out of your normal comfort zone, your normal people, your normal public transport that you're comfortable with, I would say is a red flag. And then we also say for the community to look out for would be homes that maybe have, if we talk about brothels, but even homes or factories, workplaces where there starts to be suspicious behavior, such as people not being allowed out, even friends that maybe suddenly become very recluse, where there's financial control suddenly, where they're not given freedom to spend their own money or control over their cell phone. All of those freedoms that are suddenly restricted would definitely be a red flag that there needs to be a further investigation. And that's when I'd say contact the hotline, because they'd be able to differentiate between whether it's a personal issue or whether it is in fact human trafficking.
Just bone-chilling to go back to the numbers, 258 trillion rand industry globally. Just shocking. Thank you very much for what I think are some really useful tips and information, Nancy, that you provided with us this evening. The contact number, as Nancy's been sharing with us, for suspicious behavior, things you're concerned about. If you see something, say something, is the common adage. Nancy Strauss, thank you for talking to us. Good luck to you and all of the other organizations that work together to deal with the scourge of human trafficking. Nancy Strauss is the Trulife Creative Director.